Welcome back. You're still watching Network Africa on Channels Television, where we have a very special guest joining us in studio today. She is a senior associate at Covington and Berlin LLP in Washington, D.C. and goes by the name of Mikbe Okuseinde. She's also a leader in the firm's Africa Initiative, who provides strategic advice to companies on the various legal and socio-political factors that are relevant to entering into or operating in the African market. Mikwe, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you.
Now, based on what you do, what are your thoughts on Nigeria's the youth transformative potential?
I think one thing that everyone's been following for the past few years is the size of the young population here in Nigeria. And you look at Nigeria being the most populous country, but you look at the fact that a significant majority of the population are between the ages of 25 to 35. They have an entrepreneurial spirit. They're innovative, they're resilient, and so they're really going to be the engine of growth for the country moving forward. So I think that they have a transformative potential for the country, and then also the country's role on the continent and the global economy more generally.
Well, one of the complaints which we've heard, especially from the youth, is that there's little investment in them in Nigeria. Now, if we're going to actually wait for a conducive environment for the youth to actually get to do whatever it is they want to do, they might not be youth anymore. So what should the youth do in the meantime in order to reach their full potential, even if the environment is not 100% conducive?
Something that's been very inspiring is how much they have managed to achieve without having the ideal enabling environment. So you're just looking at how much they're able to do without the environment being ideally what they're looking for. And then on top of that, you see an increasing amount of attention being put towards the youths. And you see it coming from governments, you see it coming from private foundations, international institutions, foreign governments. There are a lot of programs that are giving them early startup capital, that's giving them the skills training to take that potential and actually fully realize it. So I think it's just now become a situation where it's unavoidable and it's inevitable that the youth are really going to change the future of this country. So continuing to demonstrate to the government, continuing to demonstrate to potential investors just how much the youth can achieve, I think is the best way for the youths to move forward and really say, give us a little bit more support and we'll really change the world.
What's the first step, though?
The first step is those early conversations. The first step is having these different foundations that are putting out these programs, and the youth applying to these programs, the youth participating in these programs, the youth just taking their own innovation and showing the small thing that they can do without any support and demonstrating that they have a potential that should be realized and should be invested in.
What about the school curriculum? Isn't that also a contributing factor to where the youth find themselves today? Because we see cases where, or we see a large case, I mean, I'm proof as well. I was taught how to be a good employee and not necessarily a good employer until I got to university, where I went through a course, Entrepreneurial Development Studies. So in a society where we're seeing people being trained on how to be employees and not necessarily employers, what happens then? Should we not see a change in the curriculum as well?
I certainly agree with what you're saying, and it's not something that's unique to Nigeria. I was trained in the States, and one of the things that you're seeing is that the skill set that the children are being taught is not relevant to the economy in which they're going to be living and doing business. You're in a knowledge-based economy, you have these modern technologies, and you need to make sure that the skill sets not only align with the economy, but also align with those who are going to give them employment down the road. So there's a very strong role that the private sector can play with working with the institutions. It doesn't need to just be at the college level. It can be at the secondary, it can be at the primary school level, so that you create a curriculum that allows these people to really be trained and really have the skills that are going to be relevant for what they're going to be doing 10, 15 years from now. And isn't this antiquated curriculum that's the same thing that our parents were taught, our grandparents were taught just out of habit. It's making sure that it's constantly dynamic and constantly being reformed so it's reflective of the economy that they're going to be going into. I think another area in which the private sector can play a role is providing internships, externships, fellowships, other opportunities for the young people to really work in the area that they're going to be working. So not this theoretical, I'm in a classroom and this is how you solve a problem, but putting them in the office, putting them on the ground at the job site and having them actually live the reality of the training that they're receiving.
Now that's about our youth. What about our women? I mean, we just saw the Africa Union Summit, which concluded over the weekend. A lot of talk going on.
Yes.
Little action. I think we're all tired when we hear, oh, women can be empowered, leaders, this, that, but we're not really seeing a lot going on in terms of walking the talk. It's been all talk, no action for a lot of years. What happens with the women?
I agree that for a very long time there has been a lot of conversation about, you know, how you need to treat women, how the role that women can play in the economy. I'm frankly very impressed by the number of women that have said, okay, I'm done with the talk, I'm just going to do it myself.
Thank you.
And I think that we're a testament to it. No, but I think that it's a situation in which if the policies are just policies and they're not being enacted, then you just need to take your own initiative and bring it upon yourselves. And you're seeing in a number of different sectors the rise of the women's cooperatives or women's collective action and them just solving it within their own system. Again, I'm not trying to absolve the governments or the international institutions of the responsibilities that they have, but at a certain point, if they're not going to help, then we say at least stay out of our way.
Thank you for that. I'm very inspired by that, and thank you for joining us. I've been speaking with Mikpe Okunsende. She is a senior associate of Covington and Berlin LLP. She she joined us from Washington, D.C. live right here in studio. Thank you so much. And speaking of education, we're going to look at what's going on in Akwa Ibom State. But before that, we're looking at what's happening in South Sudan. The United Nations Mine Action Service is gathering information to locate and eradicate the threat of landmines. And they're also doing what they can to reach areas of the country where there have been accidents and loss of life due to such threats. According to the spokesperson, United Nations mission in South Sudan, as of December 2015, landmines have caused 7 deaths, 6 accidents, and injured 23 people.
Mass has surveyed, cleared and released over 13.9 million square kilometers of land. UNMAS identified and destroyed over 29,000 mines and other unexploded ordnance, and delivered mine risk education to over 500,000 people. That's only for the year 2015. Since December 2015, there have been 6 accidents involving mines and unexploded ordnance. This is a very, very serious issue for South Sudan. A total of 7 persons have died in 2015 and 23 have been injured as a result.
Now, speaking of the education we're talking about, in 2008, the Akwa Ibom State government declared free and compulsory education up to senior secondary school level for every child of school-age resident of the state or in the state. And as part of the policy, government embarked on a number of projects to ensure smooth running of the project. 7 years after, just how has the policy fared?
It was jubilation in 2008 when the Godswill Akpabio's administration introduced free and compulsory education in Akwa Ibom State, which was adopted by the present governor, Udom Emmanuel. Years down the line, how has this policy fared? We visited a few schools. Though learning is ongoing, the classes appear very inadequate.
We have seen many parents bringing their children, their wards from nursery school to register in a private nursery school to register in our public schools because of the free and compulsory education.
We interacted with a few of the students who say they find this policy of huge benefits, but they were, however, quick to express their concerns.
Majority of us are from poor homes. We wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn the white-collar job or be involved in Western education, but thanks to the government.
I want the government to give us more seats and teachers so that we can learn well.
Our library, it's not that okay, but there are some books, but they need to update it. There are books there, but they are old books.
We don't really have a good lab. We don't have equipment in our lab for practicals, carry out our practicals.
Some parents also feel there is much left undone by the policy.
Compulsory means you are forcing people, okay? By all means, you have to go to school. So if government want to support the parents under free and compulsory education, as it is now in Akwa Ibom State, it is not free. It is subsidized education, like I said, it's subsidized.
In spite of the daunting challenges facing the policy, the State Commissioner of Education in a chart assures of government's commitment to the policy.
Now, on that note, here's our feedback of the day. We asked you what your thoughts were regarding President Jacob Zuma's decision to return some of the funds which were spent at his Nkandla residence. And the top feedback is coming from Linda Shulk, and she says it's a tactical move by the South African president as the Constitutional Court case draws closer. The president wasn't going to win. Hashtag pay back the money. Linda, thank you so much for your feedback. And on that note, here's our question of the day. What are your thoughts about Italy's offer to help Africa in the fight against terror? Feel free to reach out to us either via email or Twitter. The address and handles are right there on your screen. Thank you so much for watching Network Africa right here on Channels Television. I'm Cynthia Are.